There is a moment fragile and invisible that arrives in every human connection, a moment when silence becomes heavier than words, when the rhythm of presence fades and the warmth you once felt begins to feel distant. It is not marked by dramatic gestures or loud arguments, but by the subtle retreat of attention, the quiet absence of a glance, the missing pulse of recognition. You notice it first in the way conversations trail off, in the lingering gaps between messages, in the way your hand hovers over the phone before deciding not to reach out. It is in this stillness that a peculiar ache awakens, not a fear of losing the person, but a fear of losing the feeling of being seen, understood, and held within another's gaze. It is in this tender vacuum that attachment is born not as a demand or a plea, but as a quiet resistance to letting go. In that space, the mind naturally reaches outward. It seeks answers, closure, reassurance, a sign that the connection is not entirely gone. Yet, what if the real answer does not lie across the distance, but within the silent chambers of your own being? What if the bridge you are longing to rebuild does not require more messages, more explanations, more attempts to secure attention, but a deeper alignment with your own presence, your own emotional truth? Carl Jung wrote in Man and His Symbols that what you resist persists, what you accept transforms you. That moment of disconnection, so often mistaken for an ending, is in fact a portal. It is a threshold that invites you to meet yourself, to inhabit the space that your longing has quietly revealed. Here, love does not vanish. It mutates. And in the alchemy of this mutating love, you begin the work of reconnection not with another, but with the most intimate companion you will ever know yourself. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly. The first step is not a gesture toward the absent other, but an inward turn, a deliberate immersion into your own energy, your own resonance. Imagine it as standing in a dimly lit room where your own presence, your heartbeat, and the subtle vibration of your breath become the only light. To cultivate this energy is to become magnetic without striving to exist fully in your own coherence, so that your essence can be felt even from a distance. Jung observed that the human unconscious does not respond primarily to words, but to the emotional truth they contain. Your authenticity, when held with calm and dignity, is a force more palpable than any effort to chase attention or coax recognition. It does not clamor, it whispers. And in its whisper, it leaves a mark that persists long after the external signals have faded. This is the paradox of inner work. By surrendering the compulsive impulse to reach outward, you gain an unseen authority over the emotional space you occupy. You stop trying to mold perception or demand presence, and instead allow the energy you carry to quietly imprint itself. You are no longer a memory to be recalled through reminders or arguments. You become a presence felt in subtle, almost unconscious ways. Like a candle lit in the heart of a dark room, you exist, and your glow begins to radiate regardless of whether anyone notices immediately. The effect is not manipulative, nor is it a strategy. It is a profound realignment. It is about embodying the energy you wish to share, letting your internal coherence emanate naturally, and trusting that this quiet, sustained vibration is heard by more than just your own mind. It is not an easy journey. Every day your instincts will urge you to reach out, to explain, to recover what seems lost. Every day your longing will speak in the language of urgency. But the work is not in yielding to that impulse. It is in staying present with the ache breathing through it, and learning to feel the emptiness not as absence, but as an invitation to deeper connection with yourself. Here, in this silent confrontation, begins the slow, luminous process of transmutation, where the raw, trembling energy of attachment is refined into the enduring pulse of self-awareness and emotional clarity. Sitting with yourself in that quiet is like discovering a hidden room inside your own heart, one you never knew existed, because you were always looking outward. In this room, You can allow the feelings that previously drove you toward another to breathe without urgency. Loneliness is no longer a void. It becomes a mirror reflecting the depth of your own capacity to feel, to care, to resonate. There's a strange alchemy in this. By refusing to chase, by resisting the instinct to fill the space with words or explanations, you begin to emit a subtle energy that carries weight far beyond physical presence. It is not about controlling the other's perception, but about reclaiming the sovereignty of your own inner field. Your presence, even in absence, begins to be noticed, not because you demand it, but because it now carries the resonance of authenticity. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a fog-shrouded forest. Every step you take is quiet, measured, and intentional. The fog represents the distance, the uncertainty, the unspoken tension between you and the other person. You cannot see them. Perhaps you never will. But as you move through the mist with deliberate attention, you notice the way your own breath carries, how the pulse of your footsteps echoes softly. Each motion is an energetic imprint. It is here, in this still, suspended space, that you begin to practice what Jung would describe as the conscious projection of presence. Not in manipulation or coercion, but in the simple act of feeling yourself deeply, fully, and honestly. This feeling travels outward not through words, not through gestures, but through the unspoken language of your own being. The first days are often the hardest. The impulse to reach out, to explain, to reconstruct the bond rises like a tide inside you. There's a tension in every breath, a tremor in the hands, a restless energy in the chest. But each time you notice it and choose not to act on it, you are doing more than resisting, you are transmuting. That restless energy, rather than dissipating in frantic attempts at contact, becomes an internal current, a vibration of presence that grows steadier, stronger, and more coherent over time. This is how the invisible begins to speak. You are no longer a figure attempting to be remembered. You are a force that is remembered because it exists authentically, fully, undeniably. The subtlety is crucial. Urgency will always feel heavy and desperate, but authenticity is light and magnetic. In these moments, silence is no longer emptiness. It is a canvas, a space where the emotional imprint you carry can radiate without interference. By feeling from the depths of your own chest, through breath, through the heartbeat, through the warmth in your chest, you begin to cultivate a resonance that is tangible in ways the rational mind cannot grasp. The emotional body, that hidden reservoir of memory and sensation, responds more readily to the energy of being than to any words ever spoken. You begin to plant seeds, not in soil, but in the unseen field of your own energy, seeds that carry intention, calm, gratitude, and recognition. They are offered without expectation, and in that offering there is power. This is empathic projection done consciously. It is not a wish, nor a plea, nor a strategy of control. It is an acknowledgement that human connection exists beyond immediate presence, beyond phone calls and texts, in the subtle vibrational layers of being. It is a reminder that what you emit emotionally, energetically travels, persists, and leaves traces. Every pulse of tenderness, every breath of acceptance, every heartbeat of self-respect communicates a language far older than words, one that resonates with archetypes and memory tucked deep in the unconscious. You are speaking from a depth that transcends narrative, beyond logic, beyond explanation. You're speaking directly from the soul. In this practice, the body becomes your most honest messenger. Each inhalation, each exhalation, each subtle shift of posture communicates more than speech ever could. Stretching, moving, simply existing with awareness becomes a language of the self, a declaration that your presence is whole, complete, unfragmented by absence. You learn to inhabit the body, fully feeling the energy rise and fall, like tides, observing without judgment, allowing without grasping. Movement is no longer physical exercise, it is energetic alignment. As Jung noted, psychic energy that is unexpressed manifests as tension, fatigue, anxiety. To move consciously is to free the currents within you to channel what would otherwise fester into clarity, into resonance, into something that vibrates beyond your immediate awareness. In this way, the body and the soul conspire together, teaching you to feel, to emit, and to exist with a presence that cannot be ignored. The act of writing becomes equally sacred. When you sit with pen in hand, you are not releasing thoughts for the sake of relief, nor are you sketching a roadmap for the other to follow. You are shaping the energy of your internal world, giving tangible form to what is normally invisible. Each sentence is a pulse, each word a bridge between your conscious mind and the deep reservoirs of your emotional self. You write not to convince, not to negotiate, but to declare, I am present, I am whole, I am connected with the rhythm of my own being. And in that act, the vibration shifts. Writing crystallizes your internal state, anchors it in clarity, and communicates outwardly, even in the absence of physical interaction. Your energy becomes coherent, and coherence is a language that the universe and those connected to you cannot help but notice. It is vital to understand that this is not a practice of longing or of pleading. It is a practice of recognition, recognizing the value of your own presence, the weight of your own silence, the magnetism of authenticity. Desperation dissipates when you stop measuring connection by external response and begin to measure it by the integrity of your own vibration. You stop chasing and start emanating. There is a subtle difference, but it changes everything. Urgency shrinks, presence expands, anxiety softens into patience, and patience becomes a quiet, potent force. And it is in this quiet force that something remarkable happens. The echo of you begins to be felt not because of what you say or do, but because of the depth of what you are being. Every day this practice grows, silent affirmations whispered within the chest pulse with new meaning I am remembered. Because I vibrate truth. I'm aligned with what I deserve. My energy is clear, and because of that, my life aligns. Each phrase is a seed planted within yourself, nurtured by breath, by attention, by emotional certainty. Repetition is not mechanical. It is ritual, a devotion to the inner field of your own presence. Over time, the nervous system begins to recognize these truths as real. Your vibration becomes steady, unyielding, magnetic. And this is where the art of conscious detachment reveals its deepest potency. You are not cutting yourself off from love, nor from the other person. You are opening fully to the love that lives in you, allowing it to resonate outward naturally with no force, no pressure, only integrity. It is a subtle, almost imperceptible form of connection. Presence without attachment, silence without void, absence without loss. The other person may or may not respond, may or may not notice in the ways you expect, but it does not matter. The point is not the return, it is the transformation of the self. The alchemy occurs in the depth of your awareness, in the deliberate cultivation of your own energy, in the mastery of your emotional field. In that mastery, you find a quiet authority, a dignity that cannot be shaken, a presence that endures. You become unforgettable, not because you insist on it, but because your authenticity leaves a subtle, indelible mark. And in the stillness of this inner work, something remarkable begins to unfold mystery. Not the kind of mystery that deceives or confuses, but the kind that captivates and endures. When you step back from striving, from needing, from explaining, you create a space that cannot be crowded by expectation. You become an enigma in the most natural way possible, not by withholding, but by fully inhabiting yourself. There is a weight in this presence, a quiet gravity that draws attention not through demand, but through resonance. Jung observed that the unconscious communicates with symbols, images, and repetition, not with argument or reason. By living authentically, by feeling deeply, by allowing your energy to pulse coherently, you are shaping symbols that exist long before words are spoken and perhaps long after they are forgotten. Your vibration becomes a living emblem, one that carries memory recognition and the subtle hint of something ungraspable, something profoundly real. This work is not a path of ease. Each day presents temptations to reach for reassurance, to send a message, to reclaim what feels lost. And yet in each moment of choice, you exercise your inner sovereignty. You are learning to sit with longing without being consumed by it, to feel attachment without acting from lack, to breathe into absence without letting it fracture you. This is conscious detachment at its most exquisite, an act of love that begins with yourself, radiates outward, and does not require reciprocation to hold its power. When you practice this consistently, your energy shifts, it solidifies, it carries a weight that is undeniable. You are no longer merely a participant in connection, you are the force that generates it from the inside. The subtlety of this presence is profound. You are not noticed because you are performing, but because you exist coherently, magnetically, authentically. The emotional body of another, attuned to the rhythms of vibration rather than the chatter of intellect, begins to recognize the energy you carry. It may evoke memory, longing, curiosity, or reverence, but always it is felt before it is understood. You are speaking in a language older than language one that communicates through warmth, steadiness, and clarity. You have become a presence that leaves traces and echo, that lingers in the quiet spaces between thoughts, a frequency that imprints even without contact. And in this you begin to see a subtle truth. Connection is not measured by proximity, by conversation, by reunion. It is measured by the coherence, depth, and authenticity of the energy that you carry, and by the way that energy shapes the inner worlds of those who have encountered it. The rituals that support this practice are deceptively simple. Breathing consciously, moving your body with awareness, writing with intention, repeating silent affirmations, all of these are acts of devotion to your own field, to the cultivation of your internal landscape. You are creating a sanctuary of coherence, a refuge of presence, a reservoir of steady energy. Each day, each repetition, each moment of choice to refrain from chasing or pleading strengthens the internal foundation that your vibrational frequency rests upon. And as this foundation solidifies, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Absence becomes fertile, silence becomes expressive, and your presence, though invisible in form, becomes palpable in essence. And within this transformation you find freedom. Freedom from the need to be validated, freedom from the compulsion to chase freedom, from the belief that connection is contingent upon constant action. You come to understand that true influence is not in persuasion or effort, but in the quality of being. When you embody love, steadiness, and authenticity, the echo you leave becomes a force that resonates quietly but insistently in the emotional memory of others. The soul recognizes this resonance often before the mind does, and in this a profound truth emerges. The power of your presence is not in proximity, but in fidelity to yourself. It is here in this luminous interiority that the final transformation takes root. By no longer scrambling to fill the gaps with words or gestures, you become a living testament to the quiet power of being. The absence that once ached becomes a space for reflection, for cultivation, for remembering your own worth. You begin to see that every heartbeat, every breath, every conscious step you take within yourself is a declaration: I am enough, I am whole, I am present. And the resonance of that truth travels farther than you imagine, touching corners of perception you cannot trace, leaving impressions on hearts and minds without any act of persuasion. It is the language of the soul, silent, subtle, and unforgettable. Through empathic projection, conscious detachment, and intentional embodiment, you realize that connection is never truly lost. It merely shifts, waiting for the energy that reflects its original depth. You stop seeking validation from the external, and in doing so, you cultivate an internal authority so steady that it radiates outward naturally. You are no longer visible only in memory. You are present in essence, vibrating through absence with the quiet insistence of truth. Jung spoke often of the unlived life, the potential that dies when energy remains unexpressed. By turning inward, by feeling, moving, and expressing within the safe container of your own presence, you reclaim that life. You become the vessel, the transmitter, the pulse that carries meaning beyond the constraints of immediacy. There is a strange beauty in realizing that what you once feared, losing the other's attention, their validation, the warmth of their recognition, was never truly yours to control. The true treasure lies within you, the ability to cultivate a steady field of authenticity, to emit love without demand, to inhabit your own inner world with dignity and grace. Each silent affirmation, each deliberate breath, each intentional movement is a stitch in the fabric of your emotional sovereignty. You are learning to trust that what aligns with your frequency will return of its own accord, or if it does not, that your growth and presence are sufficient unto themselves. This practice reshapes your relationship to time, absence, and expectation. Moments that once felt urgent now unfold with patience. Emotions that once threatened to overwhelm are met with conscious attention and gentle acknowledgement. You no longer live in reaction, but in resonance. In this state, the echo of your presence is felt even when unspoken. Your vibration is noticed even when unseen. You have become a constant in a world of impermanence, a signal of authenticity that cannot be erased. And in that constancy, you discover a profound liberation, the recognition that your own energy, carefully cultivated and faithfully maintained, is both the source and the witness of all meaningful connection. By the time this practice has taken root, you no longer chase, plead, or strategize. You move through the world with quiet magnetism, each thought, feeling, and breath aligned with the integrity of your inner field. Love becomes a language you speak first to yourself, and in that it inevitably resonates outward. If someone returns to you, it is not because of your insistence, but because your frequency has called them home. If they do not, you remain whole, untouched in your center, a presence that is unmistakable in its quiet, enduring strength. You have learned the subtle art of vibrational connection, that true power lies not in words, but in the lived, felt, and emitted truth of being. And so as you carry this practice forward, remember this: your presence matters, your energy leaves traces, and the soul remembers what the mind cannot. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you are. Embody your truth, cultivate your resonance, and watch how life begins to realign, not through force, but through the quiet power of coherence. If this journey has touched you, if you feel the pulse of your own presence calling, take a moment to honor it. Like this video if it resonated, share it with someone who may need to hear it, subscribe to join this ongoing exploration of inner life, and leave a comment with your reflections. Your energy matters, your voice matters, your presence matters.